Hello and welcome to my tiny tarot practice. I'm Amelia Ruby, and on this show, I share my tiny tarot practice as we move through the tarot card by card. Over the past 4 seasons, we've moved through each suit of the minor arcana, exploring the cards of the wands, the pentacles, the cups, and the swords. And it's been such a joy to share my reflections on those cards with you and to pull in the work of tarot scholars that I admire. And now we are at long last turning to the major arcana. These are the 22 cards that make up some of the most evocative archetypes and symbols and visuals in the tarot. And I'm so excited to be exploring them with you in this 5th and final season of the show. And this whole podcast actually started with me doing a personal journey through the major arcana. So in the summer of 2021, which is just about 3 years ago when I'm recording this, I decided that I wanted to study the tarot. And I started by going through the major arcana and reading Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom alongside meditations on each card. So I would pull the card in the Rider-Waite-Smith-Coleman version of the deck. I would meditate on that, write down my impressions, reflections, and then I'd read part of 78 Degrees of Wisdom and see what Rachel Pollack had to offer about that card. And I did that for all 22 of the cards. And when I finished, I was like, I want to keep going and move through the minors. And hence this podcast was born to continue to reflect and also share what I was discovering about the tarot and thoughts on each card. So as we start this 5th and final season, it really feels like a return for me. I'm going back to those studies. I've pulled out that journal where I made those initial notes. And now 3 years later, I'll be revisiting these cards and bringing in more texts that I refer to and more of my own personal lived experience to each of the archetypes and what I find them meaning these days. So I want to briefly speak to the cards of the major arcana and how I think about organizing them. I've already mentioned that there are 22 cards in the major arcana and they're numbered from 0 to 21. So here are the cards in that numerical order: the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot, Strength, the Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, the Hanged One, Death, Temperance, the Devil, the Tower, the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and the World. And these cards can be thought of as separate and distinct, or they can be considered a sequence or a journey from the beginning of the major arcana to the end. And if you've listened to any other seasons of this show, you know that I love to think of each suit of the minor arcana as a journey. And so, of course, I also like to think of the major arcana as a journey, moving from the Fool all the way to the World. And there are many ways to organize these 22 cards, but I'm particularly partial to Rachel Pollack's organization into 3 sets or lines of the cards. So she says that the Fool stands on its own. It's doing its own thing on its own journey. And then we have 3 sets of 7 from there. So 1 through 7, 8 through 14, and 15 through 22. And so as we explore each of those 3 lines of the tarot, as she calls them, we actually move through different layers of our lived experience. So in the first line, we start with consciousness or the outer concerns of life. In the second line, we move to the subconscious or our inward concerns and search for who we really are. And then in the third line, we move to the level of the superconscious. So our spiritual awareness and our collective discovery. So as I have always done in this show, I will consider the major arcana sequentially, thinking of it as a journey from card to card. And I'll also be thinking or referencing perhaps these 3 lines and how they play to or speak to the different levels of our experience in our lifetime, from outer to inner to cosmic. I love that spiralic evolution. This season will once again be taking that card by card approach. We will have short, sweet episodes on each card of the major arcana. And I will also be sprinkling in some short, sweet guest episodes where I'm inviting a few of my most sacred friends and peers to speak a little bit to their favorite cards in the major arcana and what those mean to them. I won't be doing this for every card, but you might hear a few other voices on this show for the first time as folks join us to explore these archetypes. I'm also very excited to have a presenting sponsor for this season. So season 5 of my Tiny Tarot practice is presented by Tarot for Creative Spirits, a journey of self-discovery through tarot by Cecily Saylor. This workbook is extraordinary. In it, Cecily has given us a beautiful artistic journal where we get to explore the tarot card by card and be invited into creative prompts for every single archetype in the major and the minor arcana. There are invitations here to journal, draw, sketch, collage, create altars, cast spells, and so much more. And it's really just unlike any other tarot book that I've ever seen. And if you've looked at our bookshop link, you know that I'm out there looking at all the tarot books. But this really feels more like an in-depth course than it does a workbook. And Cecily even has a membership that goes alongside it so you can work through the book in community and find that support and conversation around it. And I'm just so thrilled to have Cecily and Tarot for Creative Spirits as a sponsor this season. And I really want to invite you to head to the show notes to check out the book and go ahead and get your copy. You can listen to every episode and hear me gush over it and then decide to get your copy. But why not just do it now so that you can be going through it as you listen to these episodes? Cecily's also been kind enough to create a discount code for my Tiny Tarot listeners. So you can use the code MAGIC12 or MAGIC12 to take $12 off your purchase of the book. So that will also be linked in the show notes. Head there to get the discount code, get your copy of Tarot for Creative Spirits, and support both me and Cecily in the process. And I think that's it for this opening of our 5th and final season of my Tiny Tarot practice. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and for joining me in another season of this show. If this is your first time listening, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and to head to the show notes to grab that link to check out Tarot for Creative Spirits. I will be back soon to begin our journey through the major arcana with the Fool, who is a perfect partner for this adventure that we're about to go on. Thank you so much for being here, and take care.